Canada just announced one of the biggest economic pivots in our history. For the first time in decades, we are openly saying we need to reduce our dependence on the United States. Mark Carney's government is promising to double non-U.S. exports within a decade, to cut spending to balance the books in 3 years, and to do it while heavily investing in the so-called new economy. Now, whether you're liberal, conservative, or just exhausted by all of it, this isn't just another budget. This is the start of a national identity shift. Let's be honest. For most of our modern history, Canada has built prosperity by tying itself to the American engine. Over trade routes, our currencies, our pipelines, our supply chains, even our political culture were all designed around one assumption: that the U.S. would always be stable, reliable, and our best friend. And for a long time, that actually made sense. Access to a 330 million person market just across the border. Shared defense, shared values, shared language, just worked. It was so easy. But here's the truth. And this is unfortunately the real hard truth. What once looked like security now looks like a risk. When Washington sneezes, Ottawa catches a cold. And when the U.S. puts tariffs on auto, steel, our factories bleed jobs. When America First becomes the slogan of the day, we find ourselves in second place. And that's just the way it is. This latest announcement, Carney's pivot, didn't come out of nowhere. And if you've been watching, you know exactly where this came from. It is a response to years of slow, painful realization that the world is moving from non-single dependent economics. China isn't just a factory anymore. It's a consumer powerhouse. India is rising. The EU is reorganizing around its own security and needs. And the US, well, it's turning inward, divided, protectionist, unpredictable. So Canada really has two options. Either cling to the old comfort zone and risk slow decline, or make the leap, diversify, reindustrialize, and rebuild our sovereignty in trade, energy, and innovation. And that's kind of what Mark's betting on. He's betting on Canada. Now let's break down what's actually being said, because beneath the headlines, this is a fascinating balancing act. On one hand, he's promising unprecedented investment, big infrastructure, green industry, advanced manufacturing, AI, the whole thing, right? Everything's being promised right now. And on the other hand, he's telling Canadians to prepare for sacrifice, cuts, restraints, and tough choices. And this is really the biggest problem here, that this isn't a contradiction. This is actually strategy. He's trying to do what very few governments ever manage: stimulate and save at the same time. Liberals will call it, quote unquote, nation building, right? Conservatives will call this physical realism. But here's the real insight. It's neither left nor right. This isn't an issue that the Liberals got under lock, or the Conservatives, or the NDP, or anything like that. This is survival. This is the survival of Canada, and it's a strategy for a mid-power nation and a shining shift in world order. And if he pulls it off, it becomes a blueprint for every G7 country trying to stay relevant in a post-American century. But let's not get ahead of ourselves, right? Let's be real for a minute, because for every big idea in Ottawa, there is a 400-page report, 10 committees, and decades of renovation. Literally, like this is going to take forever to put together. The $3.6 billion may be finished by 2032. It's the perfect metaphor for our government. Beautiful, historic, but painfully slow. If Canada's going to pivot, it can't take 30 years to do it. Our institutions move like glaciers in an era of wildfires. So the challenge isn't just policy. It's actually pace. It's actually the biggest thing the government's known for, and it's slow. It's painfully slow. And its pace right now is in question. Can we move fast enough to compete with the economies that adapt in real time? Because if we can't do this pivot, this basically risks becoming another round of bureaucratic self-congratulation. Politically, this is going to be fascinating. Conservatives will frame it as a common sense. Finally, we're standing on our own 2 feet. Liberals will present it as a moral leadership. Canada as a global bridge builder. And honestly, who cares? They both got it right. You know what I mean? Like, we don't need to fall for slogans every single time somebody says something. The truth is that Canada is in a very difficult situation right now. Canada needs to survive. And in order for us to survive, Canada obviously needs to survive. Because economic independence and global cooperation aren't opposites. They are two sides of a smart governance. So if you're running a business, a think tank, or even a municipality, this is the time to get strategic. This is where lobbying, public relations, and government relations matter, because the next 2 years are going to redefine who gets access, who gets funding, and who gets left behind. If Canada gets this right, we become more than America's polite neighbor. We become a global broker, a connector between the U.S., Europe, Asia, and the developing world, a hub for clean tech, AI, critical minerals, not just an exporter of raw goods. But if we get this wrong, and it's quite dark, but if we get this wrong, if the execution fails, if spending outruns reform, then we risk something worse than a recession. We risk irrelevance. And that's the choice. That's why this budget matters more than most people realize. It's not about the numbers. It's about identity. Canada is standing at the edge of something bigger than physical policy. It's a philosophical question. Are we comfortable being an appendage of an empire, or are we ready to grow into a power that can stand and trade on its own? If you're in politics, business, or media, this is the moment to pay attention, because the next few years will define Canada for the next 50. I'm Tarek Ibrahim, CEO of IG Strategies. In government relations, timing is everything. And right now, it's Canada's moment to lead.